My friends, the great experiment.
Down on the lower decks.
Hidden trick.
Would you look at that?
The greatest trick.
And you people, you're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
The greatest trick.
Welcome to Greatest Trek. It's a new Star Trek podcast from the makers of The Greatest Generation. I'm Ben Harrison.
I'm Adam Pranica.
You were on a Thanksgiving trip. You drove back.
I did, yeah. I had to go back.
Are you staying at like a place that is too boomy to take Mike with? Or like, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this being the least inconvenient way to do this.
Oh yeah, it's a 30-minute drive away. We rented a house to host family at because our house was insufficient for that kind of gathering. So yeah, we rented a house not far away, and it made all the sense in the world to leave a loud family gathering to come back to the studio. So that's why I'm here. Nice.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah. I'm standing on that bridge biologically where like behind me is the Thanksgiving meal. Mm-hmm. Ahead of me is the colonic prep that begins tomorrow, the colonoscopy prep.
Wow, what an interesting adjoinement of two major gastronomic events.
I'm in the middle. My birdie is in the middle of this bridge.
Wow.
I don't know what's happening next. I'm excited. My wife's leaving town. Like, I get to just do this alone.
How are you getting home, though?
Oh, I have an arrangement.
Okay.
With not my wife.
Sounds great.
I'm glad you have an arrangement with not your wife. Your Goomah, I believe.
Yeah.
The Italians refer to it as.
They're gonna make it okay. Yeah.
All right.
It should surprise no one that we live in Los Angeles by now. I think everyone knows that. There is an entire industry of folks that do nothing but drive patients to boob jobs and face jobs and all manner of plastic surgery. Mm-hmm. I got myself one of these rides.
Wow.
So I'm just going to get a little like, because here's the thing about a colonoscopy. You are not allowed to take a Lyft or an Uber.
Yeah, they won't let you start the procedure unless you can prove that you're not getting taken home by an Uber or a Lyft.
And I understand. I barely trust a rideshare driver to drive me to the most basic places, let alone a medical procedure.
Our experience going to the airport in Toronto may be a perfect example of why you don't want one of these types of drivers
it's true.
Driving you.
So I stand now, Ben, on a bridge where just ahead is just a whole lot of shit. The shit's coming.
Yeah. Wow.
So this may be as able as I am to record a Lower Decks episode for a while because after today, it's only going to get worse.
Well, let's see if the shittiest thing that's happened to you so far this week is yet to come, or was it watching this episode? It's season 5, episode 8, Upper Decks.
You know the greatest danger facing us is an irrational fear of the unknown.
Never a dull moment when you're on command.
Do you feel like the Paramount Screeners app was improved by breaking it? Because that was my experience.
Oh my God. I feel like we did this. We talked, I think on the last episode about how their Screeners app was significantly better than their app. And they heard us and they were like, oh, we know how to make a bad app.
I had to begin this episode over, I think, 4 times just to give the FODs a glimpse behind the curtain. You're only given a certain amount of views on a screener. And in years past, sometimes it was like less than 10, maybe even 5.
Yeah.
For this season of Lower Decks, we've been given 20, and I was down to, I think, 14 by the time I finished watching this 26-minute episode.
It is as though they took an upper decker in the cistern that is the Screeners app.
Yeah.
I mean, who gives a shit? It's a fucking champagne problem. But yeah, it's very frustrating. Anyways, we start in orbit of Bungar 5, where the bagoons go to eat. That's their feeding ground, of course.
You know what I like to do when we get an establishing shot and a name of a planet or a location on screen? I like to pause the screener so I can write it down And in this version of the Paramount Screeners app, when you pause, you don't get to see the screen you're watching anymore. So great improvement there. Good job.
It takes you back to something that looks like you've been booted back to the page where you select which episode to watch.
Fantastic.
Very alarming. When you've got the range anxiety of, I only have a certain number of tries to watch this.
Yeah.
It's a pumpkin carving party for the lower deckers, and Boimler's beard is even further grown in. At this point, he kind of looks like the guy that your mom got together with, like, kind of weirdly soon after splitting up with your dad.
Yeah. I gotta believe he's close to his final form here, right?
Yeah. Is that going to be good for him, or is he going to be able to live up to Prime Universe Boimler?
The reason I think he's reached his final form is because no one mentions it this episode. And it has been a point of conversation for, I think, the last 5.
Yeah. Mike McMahon cut his Star Trek joke right in teeth with an old Twitter account that was like TNG Season 8 episode pitches. And the mission that Mariner describes when she comes into the room covered in paint really sounded like a vintage TNG Season 8 episode idea.
Oh man, I've always wanted to get stuck into painting.
I wonder if when you're Mike McMahon and you've written that, I mean, what's got to be pages and pages of premises.
Yeah.
Like, how seductive is it to go back into that and harvest stuff out? Because there's a lot of good premises in there.
That was one of my favorite joke Twitter accounts, and I would believe it if you told me that this was one of those tweets, and like a nice little Easter egg for the OG fans of that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I wonder, I think he had collaborators on that too, so maybe it's like a tricky thing in terms of like, does somebody need to get their beak wet when you're running a show for a big network now, and you take a joke from something like that. The topic of conversation around the pumpkins centers on how the commanders on the Cerritos are no greats. Like, we're not being led by the Kirks and Ciscos and Janeways of the world. These guys mostly don't do anything. All the great adventures happen to us.
It's kind of funny. We're sort of the stars of the show around here.
Mariner and Boimler are going to go get some more snacks for the gang, and they're walking down the hallway continuing this conversation and like ducking and dodging around command crew in the hallways so that they don't accidentally get dragged into something boring.
Also having main character syndrome is Freeman and Stevens. I mean, it's clear that their belief is that the senior staff are the only ones who do important things on Cerritos.
Yeah.
And everyone else are the ones where we don't really know what they do or why they're around. But anything that's interesting is going to happen to us and not them.
How do you feel when you see somebody depicted that has like an executive schedule and an assistant like this? Like, Freeman is walking around and Stevens has like a chart on an iPad that gets them through all of the important captain business she needs to get to in the day. And like, I look at that and sometimes I'm like, oh man, that would be so nice to have somebody else do the work that I am so bad at, of like remembering where I need to be and when, and keeping all of the plates spinning for me. And then other times I'm like, God, that looks like it fucking sucks. Like, that guy just follows you around and tells you shit you have to do.
But that's not on the schedule.
It would be great to not have to think about it, but like, I'm my own Stevens and Freeman. So there's something nice about the idea of just kind of offloading that on someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you rather be a Stevens or a Freeman in this context? Which would you rather offload?
I mean, I'd rather be the captain of the ship.
Hey, but so heavy lies the crown. No?
That's the only crown to have. Make your own decisions.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think.
Well, she doesn't really seem to be making many decisions of her own, because Stevens is telling her that next up is a McLaughlin group.
Issue 1.
Where we get many, many updates. We're going around the horn. This is just kind of like morning meeting stuff. And we learned that Ensign Barnes was recently turned into like a hyper cognitively advanced cave woman who could read minds. Dr. Katz.
Her name is Dr. Tahana,
gets a light rap on the knuckles about not being very good at pain management as a physician.
Who squealed? Just please brush up on your anesthetics.
Security reports that everything's pretty chill, aside from Starfleet warning them that Clickets are up to something, an alien race that are allergic to compliments. They've been detecting increased chatter from these guys. And then in the midst of saying like everything is cool and chill, Shax has like a PTSD flashback where a younger version of himself that's like drenched in blood is standing in a dark corner across the room with a snake coming out of his mouth.
I thought for sure we were going to go meet his dads or something, and this would have something to do with his near-death experience. Not to get to the end, but it does not have to do with that. This is all wartime stuff that's burbling up to the surface.
Yeah. I wish my PTSD was more fun, you know? I wish there was a guy with snake coming out of mouth.
I'm sure most people wish that was the case for them.
Yeah.
He asks for and is granted a day off on the day that he asks.
Effective immediately.
Okay.
That doesn't always happen in a workplace.
No, it sure doesn't. But I guess, like, Kayshawn is there. Like, Kayshawn can do anything Shax can do and do it while saying a colorful metaphor.
Metaphor.
The topic of the bagoon creatures is raised, and these are the beings that are right outside the window. They're out there with the asteroids. And this seems to be an ecological issue rather than anything diplomatic, so they're going to have to bring someone in to help.
Yeah, a Starfleet expert, and we meet this guy pretty soon. He's going to be Ransom's person to deal with, and he's very curious about the bagoons because they're an endangered extremophile, and he does not care for Ransom calling them space cows. But when they get to the shuttle bay, it's pretty clear that like nobody aside from this biologist really gives a shit about the bagoons. There's a bunch of ensigns from Beta Shift and Delta Shift in spacesuits collaborating on trying to lure a bagoon into the shuttle bay, and they're squabbling and doing a bad job, and a giant rock gets pulled into the shuttle bay accidentally and nearly kills Ransom and this Starfleet biologist. But that's enough to bring the bagoon in. It wanted that rock. That's what it was looking for.
Yeah, it seems to be that the asteroids are their food.
Yeah.
Or they're at least good enough to lick, which is what this bagoon does.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sparkly. It does look lickable.
Right.
No way, we're the spice and glitter around here.
They have a natural cloaking ability, and this bagoon rolls up into a potato bug ball and starts rolling around the shuttle bay, crashing into shit. You know, fender benders on the shuttles, cracked screens, computers that are mounted to the floor for some reason getting knocked off their moorings, etc.
Ransom sees all of this and finds it to be an opportunity to hear himself talk. It's story time with Ransom, and we get a couple of passage of time edits, which makes the whole thing being about Ransom become more evident. He's more boring than motivational in this moment.
Yeah. It also sort of feels like it's about Baywatch, like the story beats that we do get feel like they're kind of about like surfing and like beach hangs in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a point that isn't exactly clear. We're not getting it. These lower deckers aren't getting it either.
No, because it's boring and dumb.
And over in Shax's quarters, he continues to be tormented by the freaky little monster that lives in his brain. And this isn't just an apparition that appears to him and haunts him in his quarters. This thing takes him back to the Temple of Tempasa during the Cardassian War. And in very short order, he tries to get rid of a bomb that the Cardassians have set up. And when it explodes nearby, he is thrown back into the present.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of think he's going to take a swing on this ghost Shax. Like the ghost kind of changes form. It like becomes uncovered in blood at one point, and then it becomes kind of older Shax with red eyes. And you kind of think he's going to swing on it, and it's bragging about how that won't work. And so Shax turns around and centers himself, turns off his phone, comes to the present, and astral projects a version of himself to beat the shit out of this guy.
Pretty great. I wouldn't swing at a ghost. That's just stupid. You got to become a ghost to hit a ghost. And that's what Shax does. That's why he's smart.
Yeah. I always thought Ghost was the best weapon.
Yeah.
Times change. Some people.
The greatest trick
Is yet to come.
In engineering, this is like the cut-aroundest of all episodes, by the way. It's going to be a little bit tricky, like keeping the braids of this episode holla straight. We cut to engineering, and Billups is working with an ensign, and she's got like a thing she wants to fix behind a panel. And when she opens the panel, I mean, even I can tell that this plasma looks no good the way it's flowing through this panel.
There's a lot of it, and there's a lot of panels. Once they're taken off, you see just how far this goes.
Yeah, and this might be the closest we'll ever get to seeing Billups shoot ropes when he climbs up to a high height with this ensign to start to work on this plasma flow in order to prevent a warp core overload.
Can tell a lot about the class of starship we're dealing with here, because I think on the flagship, you'd get the glass elevator. On this ship, you get the ropes, the cliffhanger ropes, and Billups is in it. This is not the sort of emergency that freaks him out at all. He just wants to get involved in the fixing of it.
Yeah, like everybody has been asked to leave engineering for the danger of it, and the ensign seems to think that maybe she should go too. And he's like, no, this is a great learning opportunity for you. Learn on the job.
Even if I die? Everybody dies, but it's the engineers who really get to live.
The hammers are the thing that initially start to choke off the power supply here. Not an advanced bit of engineering happening to solve the problem. Hammers.
Yeah, hammers. But they light up. They're special hammers that light up. That's advanced, right?
I think it's the striking of the tubes that affects what's happening inside. I wasn't clear on whether it was a special hammer or not.
But like to make something that you could drive a nail into a 2x4 with that still lit up on the head, like that's some like pretty substantial engineering prowess, right?
I think you're describing a toy that you could get on the toy aisle.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of something Daron has.
Yeah.
The boy.
In 6 Bay, Dr. Katz is logging about how annoyed she is with this light correction she's been ordered to make with regards to the way she approaches pain management. Lieutenant Westlake is a character that shows up to try to make the case that this is a real thing that she should take seriously, even though she personally has very high pain tolerance.
Nurse Westlake, pretty sassy in these scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely agrees with this take that Dr. Katz is a bad pain manager. And Dr. Katz's reaction is, let's reset the pain scale that patients use, which up until now is even less detailed than when you come out of a public restroom and you hit what version of smile you have as you leave. There's only smile or straight line face as the amount of pain a patient feels. So she disrobes and she hops onto a table and she has Nurse Westlake do his worst in order to reestablish a scale.
She wants him to rearrange her guts, which I was wondering if that was something that Shax would take exception to, her saying to another gentleman.
Unclear if they're still together. It's been many, many episodes since we've seen them do anything together.
She didn't give a shit when he ran out of the room in a flop sweat during the morning meeting. So yeah, maybe it's over between them.
Yeah, could be. Cut to the mess hall where Ensign Barnes is playing a music recital on the sousaphone. This is one of the many line items on the schedule for Freeman and Stevens.
Ah, just beautiful.
They're the only ones that showed up also, which I felt really bad. I mean, man, Lieutenant Barnes, she's really fallen a long way. Like, for season 1, all anybody said about her was that she was super hot and you'd be lucky to get a date with her. Now, she's got a unibrow. She's still half cave person. And nobody's showing up to her music recital. What the hell?
My interpretation of this goes like every crew person has their hobby and performance to do. And when you combine that with the schedule that Stevens and Freeman have to keep in attending all of these things, every crew person has so much to do that there aren't enough crew people without things to do in order to attend. And so it's not a matter of their popularity at all. It's just that there's no one actually there.
But wouldn't a 4-shift rotation enable enough people to be off duty to fill a room?
I don't think so.
I don't want to talk about it. Get it done.
Is it just that people don't want to go out to live things anymore? Is that what's going on?
I don't think so. I just don't think that the ship is that populated.
Yeah.
Everyone's so interested in their own performance that they can't give it up for anyone else.
This other guy's fertility event seemed to be pretty well attended.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess babies are different.
Yeah. Or giant writhing masses of tentacles.
Well, their baby.
A face only a mother could love.
Yeah, good thing you've got the gore umbrella. Ben, when Tyrone was born, did you have a gore umbrella that you were able to use?
No, but I was kind of like upwind of the gore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is plenty of it. Just I wasn't really like standing in the blast radius, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hear horror stories though.
Well, you got another shot at that coming up, so
I sure do.
Might as well bring an umbrella just in case.
That would be a good thing to throw in the go bag. We also get to Mr. Bingston's one-man show, your classic interminable piece of theater being mounted by another Starfleet officer who has an inflated sense of self-importance. And as Freeman suffers through all this shit, we cut to the exterior where a kind of a sinister-looking ship is lurking among the asteroids in orbit of this planet.
Yeah, the music helps us understand we can't trust this thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, the music and the design. It looks like a bad ship that bad people would fly.
Wow, I guess I just wasn't ready to judge based on appearance, but I guess it's revealed later that you're correct. But you got in early on that.
I just have a good sense when it comes to ships, you know?
Yeah, good sense. Over in the shuttle bay, remember those bagoons?
I do remember them.
They have way more than one at this point. They're entering the shuttle bay several at a time now, and they're doing a bunch of damage to the place. And Ransom is disappointed that the story that he told before didn't work, and neither is doing bicep curls using some containers nearby.
Yeah.
He seems to be just passively watching the destruction happen and completely unable to do anything about it.
When working out is plan B and telling long, interminable, boring story is plan A, it just doesn't seem like this guy has it when it comes to commanding ensigns.
Kind of feels like many parts of the ship are in danger all at once at this part in the episode. Over in engineering, buzzers and alarms are going off, and there's this AI defense golem to deal with now too, and it grabs Billups into his mouth, and this ensign is going to have to solve this problem by herself.
Yeah, I thought for sure this was going to be like a dumbed down Soong type golem, and it's not. It's a thing that like comes out of the screen like Freddy Krueger.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
There's a Chekhov's axe hanging on the wall in engineering at this point, and I kept going like, you know, at what point does this ensign pick up this axe? But it's not yet. In sickbay, Dr. Katz is like deep in the schisming chair, and they've escalated from doing like an autopsy on a living patient to her having Nurse Westlake point a like James Bond villain laser at her and blasting her.
Yeah, motherfucker, just zap me with that motherfucking thing! That's the stuff! Woo!
Not even that is taking out Dr. Katz.
Yeah, she's strong. In Shax's quarters, Shax is also strong. The hollow Shax snaps the neck of his red-eyed doppel, but that only creates a bigger problem when all these zombified Cardassian corpses get reanimated. And now he's got to re-kill everyone he killed during the occupation. And that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people, like dozens, if not hundreds of Cardi warriors. And The Doppel is trying to make the case that Shax should feel bad about killing these people, and Shax does not feel bad about it. I like the idea of being haunted by something and just being able to convince yourself, like, no, like the voice in my head is fucking wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, good control there.
Yeah.
Hey!
Cheaters don't deserve Nausicaan Latinum!
Well, this is a new ship. You treat her like a lady. You treat her like a lady. She'll always bring you home.
We cut back to the shuttle bay. The Starfleet biologist gets bonked over by one of these critters and immediately covers his face and runs out of the room. But you can see that there's something under where he got bonked. And in the corridor, Captain Freeman runs into him and is like, how's the thing with the bagoons going? And it is revealed that this guy is in fact a Clicket, the alien race that we heard about in the morning meeting.
He is pissed, and his people are there to take this bagoon cloaking tech from them and maybe eat the bagoons in the process. And if you were like me and you didn't remember anything about the Clickets, it's because you last saw them on lower decks in the year 2020.
Whoa.
That is how deep this cut goes. And it's a fun dialogue flourish here too, because Freeman doesn't even remember what the deal is with these Clickets, really.
Yeah.
And she attended that meeting earlier in the episode.
It is an interesting element of this show that it can call back something that first aired on television in like 1989, and I'll be like, haha, I get that. And then when it calls back something from itself 4 years ago, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy? What is this?
It's like the difference between knowledge and institutional knowledge, you know? Like, it's almost as if you need a longer runway for it to be enshrined in whatever Star Trek trivia is, you know? Like, this is too recent to matter in quite the same way.
For it to have become a classic in the way that TNG has.
This Clicket is telling Freeman that a bunch of my Clicket friends have boarded the ship. We don't want your ship. We're going to take out your senior officers as a way to sort of take control. And one by one, these senior officers are set upon by these Clickets. And the leader has Captain Freeman up against the wall and ready to take her down before Ensign Barnes saves the day by smashing him with a sousaphone.
Yeah, fun.
Pretty great.
Ransom is asleep as the Clickets make their way into the shuttle bay. Like, the guy is like ranting about how they have this plan to take over the quadrant once they have the cloaking technology, and hand-to-hand combat has basically broken out all over the ship, except for engineering, where it's just Billups and that one ensign, and Billups is now in a clear tube by himself, and she uses that axe to smash his way out over his protests.
I love that the axe is not just the single-sided axe, but like the battle axe with two sides.
Yeah.
And a Starfleet logo in the middle.
Right. It's not a, like, Jack Nicholson smashing through the door axe at all.
Yeah, it's like a Skyrim melee weapon. It's great.
She saves Billups. It doesn't seem to matter at all that the coolant gets, floods the whole compartment. Meanwhile, down in the shuttle bay, the betas and the deltas catch this infiltrator before he's able to stab their sleeping commander. And they work together to kick his ass, sort of united in their hatred of Ransom.
Yeah, it's a good message. Like, no matter what the motivating force is, like, you could do a lot of good with all kinds of motivations, even if it's spite.
Sure. And that seems to be like the command style that Ransom has. Like, cultivate everyone's agreement on one thing, and that one thing is that you're a fucking idiot that they should team up to embarrass or whatever.
It's really selfless work that he's doing.
Yeah. So just as the infiltrators are getting ready to take out Ensign Barnes, who has turned the sousaphone into like a ray gun reversal device, Dr. Katz comes into the hallway and attacks one of the Clickets. And like Shax is in his quarters and he's like imagining that he's killing Cardies, but he's actually acting out this fight in real life. And taking out Clickets and comes to just like surrounded by incapacitated corpses. So it seems like that's not the first time that's happened to him.
Yeah, it's really great that all the bodies matched up perfectly in his mind and in the room. Mm-hmm. Really kicked a lot of ass there. I just want to point out the sound design of this episode specifically because the sound that these insects make, both in just moving around and also getting their asses kicked, is so specifically buggy with all the clicks and so forth. Like it's so atmospheric what they're doing with this species.
Yeah. It's
really a shame we haven't seen them in 4 years.
I hope they can work these guys into a live action episode. I want to see them. I was thinking when the one guy like came out of his Starfleet biologist costume and all the gore was like falling at his feet, how fun it would be to see an attempt to do that in practical makeup effects. It's like something they would have done in like a movie in the 80s, but you just don't see stuff like that anymore. And it made me a little nostalgic.
Yeah.
On the bridge, the leader of the Clickets is on FaceTime, and Freeman has made it up there, and she finally remembers the thing about the Clickets hating to be complimented. And so she starts blowing sunshine up his ass on what a successful invasion of her ship he has done.
You're amazing at subterfuge!
Stop!
Somebody, turns on the 1MC so that everyone on the ship can hear Freeman just gas this guy up. And the Clickets have a terrible reaction to this. And he sounds the retreat and they get the fuck out of there.
Big moment. Big move. Good strategy. Freeman wins.
Mm-hmm. Down in the shuttle bay, they're getting the last Bagoon out of there. The ensigns that have been working for Ransom talk about him as their mutual enemy. They get ready to leave, and then Ransom starts logging about how this works every time to make himself the locus of hatred for the people he's commanding.
The last lower decker to leave realizes this, and when it's discussed whether or not, they'll tell the truth to the rest of them, it's clear no one would believe this story. Like, so galvanized is the opinion about Ransom that if this last lower decker were to tell them, no, it's just an act, who's going to believe that? No one would believe it.
He's done too good a job if he ever wanted to, inspire people in a different way.
He's really great. So in engineering, the problem there has been solved too, and Billups and the ensign are back at their regular duties, which means no first names anymore. They're back to normal operations, and Cadet asks for his help with another blinky light that happens to be out. And even though Billups has had the day that he's had, the near-death experiences that he's had, he's ready to get back to work. And that's just the sort of person he is.
He loves this shit.
Yeah, always time to do the work.
Doesn't even have time to unmuss his hair. Freeman has one last thing on her schedule, and she had told Stevens that she would like a little bit of not putting out fires time at some point today. And he's like talking a big game about how he's ready to, draw a line through that last meeting she has on the holodeck. But she's like, no, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to take care of business. And she goes down there, and Admiral Freeman comes out of the holodeck because it is their anniversary. Stevens has been carefully working in the background to coordinate an in-person meeting between this couple. And it kind of felt like I couldn't remember, but it might be the first time I can think of them being on screen together, not on FaceTime.
Yeah, like in the same place. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess maybe when she got hauled in front of Starfleet back at Earth, he might have been in the room.
That's how I remember it too. Yeah.
Yeah. A rare thing. And they get to go to the We'll Always Have Paris restaurant.
Pretty great moment for Steve Stevens, too, who up until now has been a character that has only been understood through his association with Ransom.
Yeah.
And how much he idolizes him. So, a crew person in his own right, and a good one, too, for clearing the way for something like this to happen.
Do you think he still idolizes Ransom, or is that over? Has the bloom come off the rose for Stevens?
I mean, they're just not in proximity. I don't know.
Yeah. This is the same thing with Shax and Ta'ana. What are we supposed to make of this?
I don't know. There's not much time to make of this either.
Yeah. In the bar, a few more of the senior officers hang, and Maglimo pitches Shax on getting a little bit of therapy to help him with his thing. That's very exciting to him, so much so that he knocks chowder on to Anna, who's sitting right next to him. So maybe there's still a thing.
Yeah, maybe. They are sitting side saddle. I think that's suggestive.
You're making too much about a side sit.
Yeah, that's a thing couples do.
Yeah.
Fool around under the table.
Yeah, on the corner especially. That's great.
Yeah. The lieutenant's junior's grades finally walk back into the episode and discuss how oblivious they have all been of the day's adventures. They really did take a day off. They didn't know about the bagoons or the invasion of the ship or any of this shit. Mariner didn't even know her dad was on board.
It's true.
Still doesn't believe it.
Yeah. Everyone else has seen him. That's a big part of the conversation. In the way that reads as a joke. A joke opportunity that Teal'c takes.
Teal'c goes off the top rope on Mariner.
I have made a joke at your expense. Boom.
That is our episode. Did you like this one, Adam?
She'll always bring it home.
I will tell you, I did not expect to speed through the recap the way we did, because this may be as many stories as we've ever gotten on a single episode of Lower Decks.
Yeah.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G stories, all the way down. Kind of a breakneck episode in that regard, and yet still like not completely incoherent. Like you get it, you get the reasons why, and I really love that this was a story of lower deckers on lower decks. These are the decks below our main characters now.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that, like I have said, Star Trek is a place to tell stories, but it's also a massively multiplayer place where every character, even folks that you would consider like NPCs, have their own priorities.
Yeah.
And when you make a show like this, it's easy to forget that when you create characters and write a show, you're not just creating and writing for 4 people. You're creating a world that they inhabit and interact with. And this episode is an example of why you need to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, in retrospect, now that we've talked about it, I kind of feel like the whole episode is TNG Season 8 premises, you know, like just like throw them all in a bag and shake it up. And in that way, a very fun one. Yeah, I really liked this one. And yeah, I'm sad that we only have like a couple left. What the fuck?
What do you feel like is serialized this season? It's just the space buttholes, right?
Yeah, and no mention of those this episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm guessing that will all start to wrap up next week, but who knows? It'd be fun if they just like never did anything with that at the end of the season.
I mean, if that's just the work of a ship in Starfleet, it's completely understandable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes things don't have resolutions.
Well, the work of a Star Trek podcast is to read Priority 1 messages, Adam. Do you want to get into the inbox here?
Oh, yeah.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Adam, this first one is from Tom in Seattle, who I believe is the prime Tom in Seattle, and it's to Ben and Adam. Wow, putting words in my mouth, but okay.
That's what Priority 1 messages are, Ben.
I guess so. My ears perked up hearing my name during a recent GTP1, but I believe this to be a mirror universe version of myself. You will remember me from a loving birthday P1 I got for my BF, Matt, on Greatest Gen. When you both are in Seattle next, we should meet with the other Tom in Seattle so we can figure out who is who. Must have been your lifelong ambition, Tom.
I think it would be dangerous to have all these Toms in the same place. Should anything bad happen.
Yeah, you do want to leave a designated Tom survivor. You know, make sure one is in Portland or something.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think that's good.
Yeah. Gotta be careful. Our Toms are our greatest resource as a nation.
How many Toms are we up to now, do you think? 4?
It's really hard to tell. Like I was just thinking about that. Like, is this 2 Toms going back and forth, or are we on to like our half dozenth Tom at this point?
I mean, and that isn't even counting the Toms that we've encountered as characters on the show. The Tom Paris's, the Tom Zareks,
sure,
and so forth.
But those aren't Toms in Seattle, specifically.
They're in Seattle to any Tom that's watching the program in Seattle.
Whoa, you're
Think
right.
about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I making any sense here?
Well, a lot to think about.
Yeah. A lot to be haunted by,
mm-hmm.
I think. Tell us more, Tom in Seattle, and I'm talking to all of you. Ben, we got a priority 1 message here from past Ben, who procrastinated too long buying this P1, and it's to Ben. Is this you? Who is this?
I would never waste my money on something like a P1. I don't know who this is.
Yeah. Here's that message. Time for my 4th annual P1 birthday message to myself. Happy birthday, me.
Wow. Happy birthday, Ben. If this is me, I missed my birthday by several months, but, oh well.
Wouldn't surprise me if that had happened from time to time. Hey, that's nice to enshrine a special moment for yourself. Don't wait for anyone else to do it for you. Ben's done it for himself.
Yeah.
And so is Tom. So if you want to support the production of Greatest Trek and Greatest Generation, go on over to MaximumFun.org/Jumbotron. Write a message. You don't have to be Tom to do it.
But it helps.
P1s go a long way in supporting the production of our shows.
Hey, Adam.
What's that, Ben?
Did you find yourself an Edward Larkin?
Edward Larkin! I like the moment where Freeman wins, all the way up to the crescendo of her thumbs up, and the way that is composed in the frame is one of those angles that it probably has a name if you're an animator, but like when you break that line and go in that direction with the drawing, I just think it's great, and they don't do it all the time, but it gets very, like, there's a great amount of depth to the thumbs up there that Captain Freeman gives the Clickets, and I just love that moment, so that's going to be my Edward Larkin.
The perspective scale on her giant hand in the foreground, making it look like they shot this on a wide-ass lens. It's very funny.
Really cool.
Yeah. I wonder if the bridge set is a 3-dimensional environment that they're animating in, or if they redraw it 2-dimensional every time, because like the redraw of the bridge would take some real like draftsmanship to look like a lens like that, you know?
I think we would have to buy the DVDs to get the production featurettes to know. But Titmouse is just down the road from me. I'm going to go take a tour.
You should, man.
They'll show me what's happening.
Go knock on the door. I bet they'd open it up for you.
Yeah. What's yours, Ben?
Oh, boy. Just feel like you're putting me on the spot here, but I think I'm going to go with Mariner. Like, what are you doing, Mariner? Getting all covered in paint like that? Telling us about a great adventure that we could have watched instead of this?
Really makes you think.
Yeah. Like, referencing a thing that didn't happen on the show in the final season just makes me angry about not having more show to watch, you know?
Yeah. I'm not angry anymore about that. I'm just trying to enjoy what we've got left.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance.
I'm still in the denial phase, personally.
Yeah.
Well, we always like to end episodes of Greatest Trek with a segment we call Warning Bois, where we shout out something nice someone said about us online.
Prepare a buoy and launch it when ready.
Warning buoys.
An emergency buoy. A warning buoy.
This one comes from the comment section on Spotify. If you use Spotify to listen to podcasts, there's now a way to leave a comment. And generally, the comments on our show apps have been super nice on Spotify. And this one is from the All the Web's a Stage podcast, commenting on the episode we recorded with Tawny Newsome a few weeks ago. They said, such a joy of an episode. I can only imagine that if LeVar Burton or Anson Mount hear this episode, they will say, wait, I could have reviewed an episode with them? Insert LeVar Burton drop.
Total bullshit, man. It's just bullshit.
Yeah, the assumption is they are invited to leave once the show starts, but we've never invited them to leave when the show starts. It just naturally happens in the course of the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we had like 20 minutes with LeVar, so asking him to catch up on an episode and then review it with us would have been nigh impossible. Maybe we can get Anson Mount to sit in with us someday, though.
I think also that Tani is a performer interested in comedy performance in a way that Anson Mount and LeVar Burton are not in that specific way. So it doesn't surprise me at all that her instinct would be to keep playing in a way that Anson Mount and LeVar Burton were probably looking at their watches. So yeah, maybe we'll go around again.
Can the Chris Farley show be over yet? They thought to themselves.
Yeah.
Thank you to All the World's a Stage podcast, and thanks to everyone who leaves a comment on Spotify. From what I understand, that helps us in the Spotify algorithm. So if you'd like to get on Warning Pause, consider leaving a comment there, or leaving a nice review on Apple Podcasts, or just posting about the show on social media, and you might hear your words coming out of our mouths on a future episode.
Wynde, you'll find it, or Bill. We'll see it. Count on it.
Somehow. Speaking of Wynde, we should toss the episode keys to her so that we can get out of here. She'll tell you a little bit about what's going on next week on Greatest Trek. Thank you so much to everyone who listened. Bye-bye.
See you then.
Greatest Trek is an Uxbridge Shimoda podcast on the Maximum Fun Network. It's hosted by Ben Harrison and Adam Pranica, and it's produced and edited by Wynde Priddy. Next week, Ben and Adam will be back to cover Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 9. It's called Fissure Quest. Max Fun members who support this show financially are the ones making sure we can continue putting out episodes week after week. So a big thank you to our members. And if you want to pitch in, it's quick and easy to set it up. You'll get instant access to a ton of great bonus content, plus the new bonus episodes that Ben and Adam release every single month. The website is MaximumFun.org/join, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you to Nick Dittmore, who created the show art, and Adam Ragusia, who composed the theme music. Thank you to Rob Adler and Bill Tilley for their work on the @GreatestTrek social media pages. Be sure to follow those accounts and use the hashtag #GreatestTrek when you post about the show online. We're also on YouTube, so make sure you're subscribed over there, and merch is available at podshop.biz. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on Greatest Trek.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.